Your Pittsburgh Steelers are going to face many challenges in 2024, and after yesterday, the schedule is going to be one of them. Welcome back to Mike Drub Sports, everybody. I'm Jason. Let's dive in. Let's talk about this schedule a little bit. Let's also talk about some of the challenges the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to face here in 2024, and how are they going to be able to overcome them? Is this team built well enough right now as it sits here in the offseason to be able to handle the adverse situations that are going to come upon them? Are they going to be able to handle this schedule, the third toughest schedule in the entire NFL in terms of strength of schedule? So let's dive in here again, and I wanted to talk about it. This really kicks off right away. If you look at this schedule and you look at the way the Pittsburgh Steelers have to go on the road here, 3 out of the first 4 games, and they're going to face teams that have a little bit of maybe history per se with the Steelers, and that is one, the Atlanta Falcons, then the Denver Broncos, and back-to-back weeks. Tell me that the NFL isn't really planning this stuff pretty good, and they know exactly what they're doing whenever they put these schedules together. And you look at the Steelers getting Arthur Smith, the former Atlanta Falcons head coach from 2023, now the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive coordinator, and the Steelers roll there week 1 to face that team, and Arthur Smith's offense will be put to the test right away. And Mike Tomlin's Steelers will have to go down to Atlanta and get a W to kick this season off in the right way. And you look at how the Steelers are built right now, you wonder to yourself, how is that game going to go? Is Russell Wilson going to be able to go down there and be able to dissect that Atlanta Falcons defense? Is Arthur Smith's offense going to be able to put up a ton of points against the Atlanta Falcons defense? There's a lot of questions and a lot of storylines surrounding that week 1 matchup, and it's very intriguing. It's a 1 o'clock game live on Fox, so that one's going to be a really interesting game to kick off the season. And again, the storylines are absolutely crazy. And then you look at week 2, headed down to over to the Broncos, going to play at, well, I always call it Mile High, but I know it's not that anymore, but going to play the Denver Broncos and going to play a team where Russell Wilson was the franchise guy there, a team that gave up a ton for Russell Wilson and was paying him massive monster amounts of money. And then he had the turmoil with Sean Payton, and they got rid of him, and now the Denver Broncos will be paying the opponent's team $38 million for their quarterback to go in there and possibly get a win against them. How crazy is that? And the NFL planned that storyline absolutely perfectly. You have 2 great storylines for the first 2 weeks as your Steelers become road warriors at the beginning of the 2024 season and look to really get their footing early and often in the 2024 season. Because if you look at this schedule, guys, and I'm not really complaining about it. We knew the teams they were going to play. We just didn't know the order in which they were going to play them. And you look at this schedule, you say to yourself, the Steelers are really going to have to come away out of those first 8 games after the bye week, week 9, and they go into a real gauntlet, and they are going to have a really, really good schedule, or a really good record, rather, coming out of those first 8 weeks of the season. You look at that week 9, they're going to have to come out of that bye and really just face some tough teams. They do get a little bit of a, well, I wouldn't call it a break because I think Jaden Daniels is going to be an absolute beast for the Washington Commanders, but maybe not as a significant game as Jaden Daniels tries to get his footing. But by week 10, he should be doing pretty well down there in Washington. I think he's the best quarterback out of the 2024 draft, and the Commanders secured him. And they do have some playmakers on that roster. So you go and you're playing the Commanders at Washington on CBS. That will be November 10th, week 10. That's coming out of the bye week. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers really start some significant games. And this is where all of their games in the AFC North are going to be played. And all you're doing is sprinkling in the Chiefs, Eagles, and Commanders. That's it. Other than that, you will play all divisional opponents from week 10 through the end of the season. So there will only be 3 games out of the final set of games here that will be non-divisional opponents, just 3. So you have the Chiefs, you have the Eagles, so 2 NFC teams, 1 AFC team, and you really got to go in here and buckle your chin strap. The one shining light for the Pittsburgh Steelers in this situation is you probably are going to have one of the youngest offensive lines as a whole in the entire NFL. And I feel like by week 10, that offensive line should really be gelling and really be getting moving for the hardest part of their schedule, which I think the Pittsburgh Steelers will also be finding their footing on the offensive side of the football with Russell Wilson and what he has at his disposal. And they're really going to have their identity by then. And I really look for this Pittsburgh Steelers team by week 10 to be hitting their stride. So that is one positive out of all of this. So they're going to be probably in a much better situation in terms of team development by that time. But you look at this and you're going into all divisional games and you say to yourself, around this time, this is when you're probably going to be facing a lot of teams that have had injuries, that have had some rough parts throughout the year. So that may benefit you as a football team. You may not be going in against some of the top talent that these teams possess. You may see some injuries that occur at significant positions, which, that always happens. And it's going to happen for the Steelers, I'm sure, too. But, it may even the playing field a little bit. But if you look at some of these games and the way the NFL set up the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's kind of a little bit ignorant in some of these ways, considering you have some short weeks here and you're going right in to those short weeks right after you play the Baltimore Ravens, which is the Pittsburgh Steelers' most heated rivalry and one of the NFL's most heated rivalry, if not the most heated rivalry in all of sport, really. I mean, you look at the Ravens and Steelers, and those are knockout, bloody games, just real intense physical games, and the Steelers are going to have to come off of both of those games and head into significant matchups on short weeks. One is going to be headed into Cleveland. After they play the Ravens on November 17th, they got to go play Thursday night football against another divisional opponent in the Cleveland Browns. Then you look at December 21st. That's a Saturday. They play the Ravens on a Saturday there. That will be December 21st on Fox. The Steelers, Ravens, that will be in Baltimore. And then the very next week, on a really short turnaround, the Steelers have to play the defending Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, live at Acrisure Stadium on December 25th, the Christmas Day game on a Wednesday. And then follow that up with a Bengals game that will be announced later to be determined, because why? That should hold a lot of significance in terms of divisional winners. It should hold some significance in terms of playoff seeding, things of that nature by that point, especially if the AFC North is what I think it will be. I think this may be the absolute best year, the best chance ever that you could see all 4 AFC North teams play in the playoffs. I really think that this could be their best chance ever to have that happen. I do predict there to be at least 3 teams out of the AFC North yet again inside of the playoffs. I can almost say that with certainty, at least with the way the rosters look on paper. So we'll work that out as we roll along. But guys, the NFL really put the hammer and the screws to the Pittsburgh Steelers here with those 2 matchups that I was talking about. How you go in and you play the Baltimore Ravens and come right out into significant matchups on really short weeks. And that is where it gets scary for both teams playing on those fields that night on those short weeks, because the lack of preparation really makes for a drab football game. But then yet again, there's going to be so much on the line that you worry about injuries because they're playing out of sorts here a little bit. The game planning isn't as great as it should be. Players are just playing off of instinct. There's going to be some hard-hitting, high-impact type hits going on. there's definitely some potential there for disaster when you're coming off those short weeks. That's just my opinion. When you're going into those games, it's just a real recipe for something that maybe not what the Steelers are looking for, man. And I feel like the Steelers get a lot of those. They had a lot of those short, weird weeks last year, too. And I know the NFL wants to get the Steelers on primetime because they are truly the real America's team. They are a worldwide organization, fans everywhere, and the NFL wants to take advantage of that due to the ratings. And I believe that you see that yet again here with the 2024 schedule. But the Steelers are going to have some issues here, guys. They have to figure out the roster the rest of the way. They need a wide receiver, in my eyes, just to get in there and help out that wide receiver room. A real solid number two until Roman Wilson can get his feet underneath him in an NFL uniform. Also, I think maybe that cornerback room might need slight adjustments. I think the defensive front, they need to really find their identity and who's going to be playing along that defensive front. Yeah, I think there's a lot of issues that still need to be tended to for your Pittsburgh Steelers here ahead of the 2024 season. But now that the schedule is laid out and the path is clear on what they have to do, it's time to get to work. And when I say get to work, I mean now you examine this schedule and you start to get your plan as a coach. You start to figure out how this is all going to go. Because I talked to some fans yesterday, and I think they're spot on. You're going to have a lot of depth. You're going to have great rotation throughout the season to keep your players fresh and healthy, especially for that back half, especially for week 10 and beyond. You really have to be prepared, and you really have to have solid rotations throughout your units to really ensure a positive outcome and ensure the health and safety of your players moving forward through the 2024 season, pushing toward the playoffs. All right, guys, the bird in the background being crazy, just chirping. So hope you enjoyed the chirps. But anyway, this is our Thursday episode. Don't forget tonight, Steel City Live at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, don't forget next Wednesday, I'll be joined by Noah Strackbine from All Steelers Talk, if you're familiar with that channel. If not, go check them out and give those guys some support. But you'll enjoy that conversation. Also, we're inching toward that 5,000 subscriber mark, so let's keep on going there. And until tonight for Steel City Live, I'm Jason. This is Mike Drop Sports. Peace.